In the Mists. A torn sky. We set sail from Kirkwall under fair winds and clear skies. The captain said we would be in Rialto within a week if the weather held. I spent the day aboard deck, chatting with the crew, and retired to my cabin at dusk. To my dismay, the motion of the waves made it impossible for me to settle down. Even reading was difficult, though the book of myths and legends I had brought was quite riveting indeed. I emerged again several hours later after it was dark, hoping the chill night air would grant me some relief. As I leaned over the rail, I heard a cry of alarm from the crow's nest. I raised my head and saw, in the sky to the far-off southwest, an eerie green glow which grew brighter as we watched. In the space of a breath, it became too dazzling to look at, and I had to shield my eyes. When I looked up again, the light was still there amidst swirling clouds. It looked to me as though the sky had been rent in two and the heavens were pouring out. I heard footsteps and was joined at the rail by just the rest of the crew. We were silent, all of us afraid to give voice to the fears that now consumed our hearts. Finally, after several minutes, we heard a lone voice from the crow's nest. "It's the end of the world." From the account of Yer Lazar of Treviso, rumored to be a retired Antivan crow. Phantoms out of dreams. The world did not end that night. I rose in the morning to see that the sky still glowed green and its light was still visible to us at sea, even with the sun blazing above. The crew could talk about nothing else. There were so many questions, none of which would receive answers till we made port in Antiva. From there, things only became stranger. As dusk fell, I found myself once again on the decks, having realized that it was the fresh air that kept the sickness at bay. I was entertaining idle thoughts. The book I'd been reading had filled my head with curious tales of things at sea. That was when I saw the light, flickering like a candle flame floating above the water, the same shade of green we saw in the sky the night before. As I watched, a bank of mist emerged from it and stretched towards the sea lily. Peeking out of the mist were white sails and prow, headed straight for us. It took everything I had to find my voice, but I called up to the crow's nest. "Look!" I cried and pointed. The watchman's eyes widened and the bell was sounded. The call went out to the helmsman. "Turn, hard to starbound." We swung wide and nearly passed the ship in the mists. I will never forget what I saw next. Hissing faces, some wreathed in flames, some in smoke, with dark holes for eyes and rows of sharp teeth. They were everywhere, on the decks, up in the rigging. I fell back in fright and must have lost consciousness. When I came to, I saw the helmsman standing over me, his face ashen. We both knew what we had seen. It was the WINDLINE marcher come out of legend into reality. From the account of Yer Lazar of Treviso, rumored to be a retired Antivan crow. The WINDLINE marcher. The story of the WINDLINE marcher is an old one. The earliest versions of the tale appear in the Exalted Age. Said to be a two-mast brig that set sail from Antivan City carrying cargo bound for the Free Marches, the marcher was lost in a storm and never made port. Weeks later, she is seen on the waking sea, miles out from Kirkwall. A sentry from Hightown spots her floating in the mists, her sails full, though there is no wind. Boats are launched, but no matter how far they go out to sea, they are unable to reach the marcher. Finally, the ship recedes into the mists and is gone. From that day on, she is spotted by sailors on the waking sea, always through mists and always before a storm, and is said to herald a violent death for all who see her. Of course, the legend of the WINDLINE marcher is often dismissed as superstition, and in recent years, the sighting of phantasmal vessels was proven to be nothing more than a trick of light upon the water. Still, the story continues to be told, its intent to chill, amuse, or even titillate. As a consequence, the tale has grown more colorful over time. In many versions, the marcher is manned by a crew of stunningly beautiful spirits who can fulfill one's deepest carnal desires, should one succeed in boarding the ship. In one particularly outlandish retelling of these versions, the marcher is sent on a disastrous journey to filter the secret recipe of the Canary Ale and is lost to their cannons. She later reappears at important moments in Thedosian history and abducts legendary figures, Andraste included, who then band together aboard the Phantom ship to attack Parvalin. From Thetis, Myths and Legends, by Brother Ferdinand Genitivi.